Hi, everybody. This is John Ferrian, and you're watching Live Large Universe. This, believe it or not, is Season 8, Episode 1. I started this program back in 2018, April of 2018, and here we are this many years later, still focused on safety and education, trying to educate the backcountry snowmobile community. And tonight I'm honored to have not only an amazing guest, but also a great friend. So William and I have been friends for William, how long have you and I known each other, man? It's been at least 5 years or more, I bet, at this point, right?
At least 5, 6 years, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of bumped into each other at snow shows and just different, events around snowmobiling. I think we've probably had the chance to snowmobile together a couple of times over the years, not a ton, but social media
A
wise,
handful. Yeah.
yeah, social media wise, we've stayed in touch. You've always been a big follower of this show. I actually watched your show. What did you call your show? Remind me again. Was it William's Garage or something like that? I can't
It
remember
was
what was.
shop chat with William.
Yeah, I can't even say it. Shop chat with William. So I was always a big fan of you
Right.
bringing people on and doing your thing too. It was cool to watch. And so
Yeah.
William, I'm honored to have you on the show tonight. So thank you for being here. Just feel free to say
Thank
hi
you.
to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be on.
Awesome, awesome. So everybody, as you're coming in and watching, we've got some live viewers here now too. I need you to do a few things. So this is really important actually, because for us to get the reach that we need with this show to be able to help share William's story, help educate other people, inspire other people to go out and get the training and to be thoughtful about how they approach the backcountry. We want you to do a couple of things. So go into the comments right now and just let us know where you're watching from, because every comment that we drop in here helps the algorithm know that people are here and they're watching and they're engaged in the show. So just simply let us know where you're watching from, and let us know if you're a snowmobiler, what state you're in, what city you're in. And then the other thing I need you to do too is just share the show out. So just jump right in while you're watching here, go into the share it out, and let people know why you're sharing, right? Hey, great message around avalanche safety tonight. Please tune in. So something simple like that. So if you guys go into the comments and let me know who's watching, we will get in there too. And I'm just going to verify one thing quick, William, while we're here live. It's been since, oh, there we go. Now people's things are popping in. I just want to make sure that we had this set up for public view. Once in a while, I've had the mistake of having it set up just to friends. Not usually the case, but
Right.
on a new episode that can happen, and that'll limit us here too. And so let's call out some people who are here watching. So we have I hope I get everybody's names right if I say it right. So Joe Coombs from Billings, Montana is here watching. We have Snowmobile Wisconsin is here watching. Matt Thomas from Thorpe, Washington is watching. He's another good friend of mine. Do you know Matt Thomas personally too, William?
I don't think I do. No.
Yeah, he's currently the club president for the snowmobile club that I'm in, and so he's here watching
Oh,
and supporting
perfect.
us. Very cool. Jody Farmer McAlexandria from East Wenatchee is watching, and it's Andy Kennedy's mother is here. So, Jody, we're honored that you're here watching tonight, and listening in on the story of what unfortunately happened to Andy. And so, we'll do this with as much respect and love towards Andy as we absolutely can, while we're also helping educate other people about the risk of backcountry snowmobiling and how they should be thinking about it. So that'll be our end goal here. We have Mike Morrison is here watching from British Columbia. We have Michael Hone, I think, is here. Looking forward to hearing your story, William.
Oregon.
Shady Cove, Oregon. Yep. So, all
Yep.
right, we'll give a pause there.
No, Michael from Oregon. Rode with Michael up in Idaho
Oh,
before he
perfect.
moved.
Very cool. Very cool.
Good guy.
Awesome.
Yep.
No problem. So, William, let's just get to know you a little bit. So, there's a lot of people here who might already know you watching, but for those who aren't, and hopefully we'll get, many, many thousands of views as we spread this around the interweb, right? And
Right.
let's just let people get to know you a little bit. Let's know, your name, where you're from, a little bit about you and your family, maybe when you got into snowmobiling. Just give us some background. Give us a few minutes. So,
So I'm William Rutherford. Currently live in Wenatchee, Washington. Um, Moved back here about 2 years ago. Before that, I lived for about 30 years in Moses Lake, Washington. So a little over an hour down the road. Um, I'm married, have grown kids, and am, as far as snowmobiling, um, about I'd had some snowmobiles as a kid and
yeah.
played and done a little bit of a lot of tinkering on old sleds, and like I think the first sled I had was a It was like a '70s Yamaha, and this was in the '80s. Uh, and I traded it for a skateboard because my buddy was moving to Arizona.
Very cool.
So, but a lot of time working on things and uh, just playing as a kid on sleds. And then in about 2013, I believe it was 13, my wife and I, well, actually, we weren't married at that time, but neither of us had our kids for Christmas. So my wife's like, hey, let's go to Yellowstone and Loretta Snowbill. And I'm like, yeah, I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And like when I moved away from Wenatchee originally, I was always like, I don't want to drive an hour and a half to go ride. I really would like Snowbill, but I can't justify the driving. And then,
Yeah.
so after that Christmas we spent in Yellowstone, my current wife and I, um, pretty much on the way home, I'm looking at sleds.
It's immediately addictive, isn't it? This sport we
I'm
call
like,
snowmobiling.
oh, I need a Snowbill or two or whatever. So at that point, I picked up some old sleds, started riding, and then
Yeah.
that may have been 14 actually. And then like by 17, one of my buddies that was a sales guy at the dealership, uh, he had a demo sled and he's like, oh, let's go. And we're stupid deep day riding up out of Reeser Creek. And he's like, oh, you got to ride this. I'm like, I shouldn't.
A newer
And
sled,
of
right?
course, like I rode it like, oh, like this is night and day.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, after that, it was like, okay, a week later, I had a new sled. And then it was like, every couple of years I had to have a new one at that point.
Yeah.
But
What you said about
you know,
2017 was the year that you kind of bought your
that was 17.
first
Yeah, it
real
was the,
new modern
that
mountain sled?
first brand new sled. Yeah.
Yeah.
First Gen 4. And yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I
Yep.
mean,
Super.
for those who don't know, like most people who are watching this are going to be snowmobilers and they get it. But for those who don't, I would tell you that I do motorcycling, I do off-roading with Jeeps, snowmobiling been almost my entire life. There's so many different cool sports out there, but there's legitimately nothing like mountain snowmobiling where you're out in the deep powder. The feeling of floating on a cloud, the adrenaline rush you get
Right.
from climbing big hills or navigating terrain that people will look at and go like, there's no way anybody can go there with a machine, and there you go and there you do it. And so
Oh, yes.
it's a very, very like passionate, addicting sport that there's literally nothing like it. Like I love, like my wife and I did a big motorcycle ride today and we had an amazing time. The weather was great, but at the end of the day, there's nothing better than that feeling of just floating over the powder and 3-4 feet of deep powder out in the deep snow. So
Right. And anywhere you can decide to go, you go and not
yeah,
stuck to a road, not stuck to a trail.
yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. So William, tell me, back in like, 2017, you had already found like a buddy or two that you were riding with and got into it. But as you got more and more into snowmobiling, like what did you do? Yeah, I'm assuming social media probably played a huge part in your ability to connect with other riders and to be able to find people to go ride with. So tell me a little bit about that evolution when
Right.
you first got your mountain sled. And, I think that's probably going to lead us up to like maybe how you met Andy for the first time, I would assume, right? But feel free to fill me in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how I met you too, is through social. I just went on
Yep.
a couple of rides with you up on Snoqualmie and
Yep.
uh, did that. And I had a pretty limited, really limited group of friends when I first started riding that were local with me. And, uh, and so then I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the groups and who's riding where and hey, can I tag along? And just trying to find people to ride with. And have met some really great people to ride with.
Yeah.
It's like through some of your rides and things like that. We've rode in Canada together.
Yep.
Now you and I have, and it with a great group of guys up there too. So um, now we've got a pretty solid group. But so I met Andy probably 4 or 5 years ago, Um, and I rode with him a little bit off and on before I moved back to Wenatchee. Once I moved back to Wenatchee, then he and I became much better friends, and we were doing mountain biking in the summer and hiking Saddle Rock, and that was something he did every day. So
Very cool.
um, and then besides just having like him and a couple other guys here locally that we're on riding today. Okay, let's go. Where before it was more of a planned thing, and it was just it's nice being closer to the mountains and having more people.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because you were in Moses Lake before, right? Like,
Most
which
like
is hour and
yeah,
a half, 2 hours
yep,
away from the mountains. Where Wenatchee, you're basically at the foothills of, all the
right.
riding areas. Within probably 30 to 45 minutes, you can probably be up on the snow park. Riding from Wenatchee area. So
Well, yeah, yeah. I can leave the house be riding in 25-30 minutes easy
that's awesome. That's
at a
awesome.
couple of our favorite areas. So
Gotcha. Well, we got a few more people who's joined us, and then I want to remind everybody to share again here too. And I got something to share with them. So we've got Lynn Brownell here from Fall City, Washington. We got Sodi Clay here from Northern California. Kevin Hedstrom is here from Wyoming, and we have Uchi Ochinero, which I happen to he says from this couch, but I happen to know he's out in Colorado as well. So thank you all for
right,
joining. Thanks for dropping in the comments, and please don't forget to share. So for anybody who does, help share, William, I'm going to pop up a quick image here so you're not surprised. So
yeah, no worries.
there's actually a kokanee dry bag from Mountain Lab. So Mountain Lab is one of the sponsors of the show, and just wanted to share with everybody that we have an item up for grabs. So anybody who shares will be entered into a drawing. We usually do this over several different episodes, but anybody who shares, their names will be added to a drawing for this kokanee dry bag, which is awesome. You can throw your gear in there, throw it inside your tunnel bag. Everything will stay nice and dry while you're going there too. And so, share this out to your personal Facebook pages. Share this out. Put it on your stories. Any snowmobile, pages that you follow, whether it be a local club or whatever. Important stories like this are going to be, helping people across the industry learn from a very difficult story in a situation of, things that I think, William, it's easy to say at this point, we, in hindsight, realize there were some mistakes made that day, right? And I think we'll cover those in some detail
Definitely.
tonight. And, the ultimate goal, I'll speak for William here and for myself as well, is like we hope that you guys can hear a story like this and reflect on your own habits and your own actions and your own training. And then the net end goal would be for everybody to, ride safer this next winter, either through getting more training, getting the right equipment, just being more thoughtful about checking the avalanche forecast and the weather forecast. All of these things will be covered throughout the episode tonight. And by sharing this out, you're helping share that message of safety and education to, prevent future tragedies from happening. That's all our ultimate goal here. So, anything you want to add, William, before we kind of start diving deeper here?
Oh, sounds about right.
Awesome, awesome.
Perfect.
And so, for those who don't know, kind of give you kind of a heads up too, is through this story, there was an avalanche where William and a friend of his, Andy, was caught in an avalanche. Andy did not survive the avalanche. And so that's an important part of the story that we want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up now as you hear this story. We'll get into kind of more specifically of like how this happened and what ultimately happened. But, we're referring to his friend, Andy. And Andy was a friend of mine too, just to be clear. I had met Andy at multiple him and his buddies. Derek Carter, I think, was the other guy's name, right? So they loved to come up and prank me
Yeah.
at the snow shows and do little secret video recordings. And I was just as much annoyed with them as I was like excited to meet him every time we went there. And it was always one of those things, like as soon as I saw him or Derek's face, I would be like, okay, where's the hidden camera this time? I started to be a little suspicious of them when they would
Yeah.
show up at the snow shows. But a great group of guys, obviously close friends of yours. And I had a lot of respect and love for Andy as well too. And this show here, we're here to honor him as well as help educate others. So, all right.
Right.
So you let me just look at my notes here quick. We don't want to miss anything. So you met Andy. You guys have been riding for quite a few years. Why don't you just talk to us a little bit about last winter? The accident happened in February. Let's
Yep.
talk about the what led up to the day of riding, right? Like, was there a was this a planned a
Okay.
week in advance?
Yeah.
Was it planned a few days in advance? Was there a big storm system that came in that got everybody stoked up? Like, just kind of give us that little bit of a lead up to the ride, and then we'll take it step by step.
So it was the last day of February. The accident was,
Okay.
and we've been watching weather and and whatnot for a week or whatever. Knew we were going to ride in that general weekend, whether it was going to be what day. We were just kind of watching the weather and seeing, what we thought was going to be best. And long about Tuesday, the way the weather patterns were looking is that Friday was going to be the best day, just weather wise. There was a storm system supposed to roll in Saturday or Sunday. So, like, no, we're going Friday. And so it wasn't planned way out ahead. It, a few days ahead of time.
So as you've been planning the event, like who was kind of coordinating it? Were you coordinating it? Was Andy coordinating it? Who all was planning on going? It was the three of you guys ultimately that were there that day together. But how many people were originally
Yeah,
supposed to go? Did everybody go?
it was committed. It was just the three of us.
Okay.
We had some others we were trying to drag in. They're like, "Oh, we're going Saturday,"
Okay.
or or I can't take off work, whatever it was,
Yeah.
and so it was the three of us that were committed pretty early in the week that we're going, and if we can drag somebody else along with us, we will. But that was that was our plan, and
And then how did you pick the riding zone that you were going to go to? Because you guys ride all kinds of different places, right? And so, what specifically was where did you guys end up going riding, and like why did you pick that particular area that day, that week?
we ride up the Medhow Hearts Pass. It's just one of our favorite areas. Uh, Both Andy and I. That's just there are some very neat zones that are very technical and pretty fun terrain, and so that's and it was late. It was late February, so we're like we generally don't ride in there uh, from like mid late December till late till middle February, pretty much, just because there's better snow closer or
Okay.
whatnot. Because for several years, that's where like we go ride, or I go ride for like Thanksgiving weekend. We start riding up there,
Yeah.
and so and the av danger gets higher pretty quick. So and the trail gets beat up pretty hard, and it's not groomed. So it's a 10-mile ride of whoops that sometimes will deter you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Unless there's and that was the thing is we knew it was going to hit. There had been snow that had been hitting up there, and it wasn't hitting closer to home. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
just the weather, that's a big piece of it.
Okay. So Friday you said was the day that you were riding that day, right? That was a
Yep.
Friday. Okay.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, it's
I'm
Friday.
assuming like the day before there's probably like a group text message going on of, getting things planned. So tell me, William, as you get ready to go on a ride on Friday, what's your routine the night before, the day before, the morning of in regards to things like, packing your equipment, making sure you have the right equipment with, just in general, but also around safety stuff, like what stuff did you pack? Um, did you check the weather? Did you check the avalanche forecast in advance? What are the things that you did to prep for that specific ride? Let's call it maybe the night before or the morning of.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think in general, I didn't. I generally have like I've got the stuff in my like tunnel bag that is always there,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the safety gear, the extra stuff that I always have there. And same with my Avi pack, which always have, whether it's extra goggles, gloves, gear, safety equipment. So I pretty much verify what's in there, and then double check my beacon, make sure batteries are good. That's pretty standard. Just kick it on. Yep, the percentage is over 80. I'm probably good for another day or whatever it is. And like this one, basically, if I remember right, he's like, "Who's driving?" He shoots me a message. Who's driving? I'm like, "Well, I don't care." He's like, "Well, I'll pick you up. I'm like, all right, see you at 5 o'clock or whatever.
Okay.
And so,
So you're referring to Andy specifically, because I remember there was a third person with you, but it was Andy specifically that was going to
yeah,
come pick you up and drive. Okay.
yeah, Randy was the other fellow that was with us, and he came up from Tri Cities, so he had
Okay.
uh, he's out of the Tri Cities, but he was meeting us up there.
Okay.
Um, so we planned on being up there by like normally we get up there by 7:30 or 8 o'clock to be able to leave the snow park, and
So that's quite a drive. I mean, it's
and that
just what I know of the area from Wenatchee up to the area you're talking about. What is that? Roughly a 2 hour plus drive, or how far is that?
is 2 hours. Yeah, it's right about 2 hours.
So crack of dawn, you're getting
And I
picked up
rode.
at like 5 a.m. I assume, or somewhere
Oh
along
yeah,
there. Yep.
yep, yeah, yeah. And even when I was in Moses Lake, I rode up there quite a bit. And it was a 3 hour trip from my door to the
Yeah.
snow park then. And my buddy had, hey, we're leaving at 4, man.
Yep. Yep.
But
So, is there anything that
that's
stood
just
out to you that morning as you and Andy were driving that couple hours up? Like, was there anything that stood out to you in hindsight? Was it just normal, everyday kind of shoot the breeze conversation? Was there any discussion
it,
around the weather, the avalanche forecast, anything as it led up to,
it,
you know, not
yeah,
once not
it
once you're
was
at the snow park, but just during the drive, that time frame. So,
right, right, right. And that's something else that like the night before I get on, I see what this avalanche report shows and kind of check through that. And and then as far as the drive up, it was just general chit chat. I mean, we're both fairly quiet guys anyhow, but a little bit, just general chit chat, what we've seen on the weather, what we kind of expect the day to be like as far as weather wise, what we both kind of seen in the avalanche report. Uh, and so there was a little discussion of that.
anything
And then, of course, once we get,
anything that stood out as like exceptionally unique or extreme, more dangerous than normal, or anything that caused any like hesitation or concern going to the zone that you had picked or anything like that, or did nothing really stick out to you that day?
uh, no, nothing really stuck out uh, in my mind that day when we're
Okay.
driving, anyhow.
Okay.
Um, So then pretty much, we get the snow park, meet our other buddy up there and get unloaded, get ready to ride. We do a beacon check just to verify everybody's beeping. And then I, I want to say we had a little discussion, hey, between the three of us at that point that, it looks good. This is what we kind of expect.
Yeah.
And we had, yeah. So, and, and it was a gorgeous day once we got up on the hill. I mean, you
Yeah.
know,
And so let's take a moment here to talk now about whether you guys discussed it or not, but like, what equipment did you have with you when it comes to things like beacon, shovel, probe, avalanche bag, radios? Like, talk to me about some of the equipment that you have just for the use as well as for the safety aspect of it, that you guys, maybe you verified, maybe you didn't, that everybody had all of it, but it sounds like you did a quick beacon check for sure. But what other equipment did
right,
you have
right. We
with you
all,
related to the safety?
yeah, we all carry beacons. We've all got avalanche packs. We've all got probe and shovels,
Yeah.
all the safety gear. We all have radios so we can all communicate.
Yeah.
Um, so as far as like the the major safety gear, we all have it. We all, you know, make sure the beacons are working. I don't know, like verifying airbags or whatever, but um, yeah. So I mean, that's the stuff we know we have. We all
Yeah.
pretty much ride together, try to make sure hold each other accountable for like this safety equipment is it's not for this beacon that I'm carrying is not for me. This is for you. This so like something happens, I can find you.
Yeah.
Or you know
Do you guys
the one you're
typically
carrying. That's what
go ahead? Go ahead.
that yeah. Just that's so that's they can find me. It's I'm
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want you to know how to use it so that
Yeah,
I'm a little
it's a good
safer.
reminder for everybody. I think we'll take a pause here for a second from the story and kind of just share a couple of thoughts, right? Is like for anybody who's a backcountry snowmobiler, if you've gone through avalanche training and education, or even if you just have, done your own research and gotten awareness, is that you realize you carry like a beacon, a shovel, a probe. A lot of people still use like avalanche airbag packs. Using a radio is really important. First aid kits, like all of those things are critical pieces of safety equipment when you're out doing this kind of activity. And as William just called out, is like the beacon that I am wearing. Yeah, it would help me if I'm wearing it that somebody can find me. But the reality is like me learning how to use it and to how to find another beacon, like that tool and stuff is more for the people in my group than it is otherwise, right? And so for the group that you're in, that you're riding with, there should be a level of expectations and accountability that not only does everybody have the right equipment, but also that they understand how to use it. And I think this is the perfect place to pause here for a second, William, and ask you specifically about maybe you and your riding partners that were with you that day, Andy and Randy, like what type of
Hmm.
avalanche education had, maybe maybe you don't, right? Like I know your own experience, but like maybe what
Right,
Andy
right.
had, maybe you do know what Randy had, but what was your understanding of everybody's avalanche education, including yours, and how to use the equipment?
Okay. So as far as myself, I think I'm pretty competent in using all the equipment. Uh, I've gone through level one and level two and refreshers and rescue courses and things like that um, for avalanche training. Um, I don't know that Andy had a specific or any other than some refresher classes,
Like awareness
um,
classes of some kind, yeah.
awareness classes. Yeah,
Yep, yep.
that he had had direct training. And I know that Randy, he was on ski patrol at an area, and so I know he has in the past had some Abbey training as well.
Got it.
He's a pretty knowledgeable fella, so
Okay.
um, that's kind of where I know we were all at as far as the training goes.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's go back to this. Unless there's something else you want to add now, we'll go back to kind of the story and like you guys were unloaded, did a quick beacon check,
Yeah.
and let's just say you
Yep.
got the sleds fired up and you're heading up the trail towards your riding destination. So tell me about that
Right.
ride up to your riding destination. Let's talk a little bit about timeline. Like you unloaded at roughly what time as you were heading up the trail? What did you observe? What did you not observe? When did you get to the riding destination? Let's take you from the truck to the riding destination. What experiences you had along the way?
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So we take off up the trail. It's about, like I said, it's close to 10 miles by the time you get all the way up in there. Um, and the first probably six of it is very much just trail. There's no popping off at all, edge of the trail or anything. Um, Once it starts opening up, there's uh, there's some evidence of some slides previously that uh, we rode. We hopped off trail a few times in a few different spots on the way in, and played on a couple other slopes that seemed safe and that looked okay. Um, the zone there's so many little pockets on the way to where the accident was actually at, where we ride. Um, and so we'll generally uh, buzz up the trail and then hit little pockets along the way, pop back on the trail, go a little farther, hop off for a second, play here, take a few minute break, then buzz up the trail a little farther into the next zone or pocket. And the snow was uh, so we left the snow park. It was probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. Um, we started playing and getting off trail a little bit, probably hour, hour and a half after that or so. Uh, the One of the zones uh, fairly close before where the accident was is near a campground, and from across the canyon, or across the canyon from where we came from to get to that area, uh, we could see a slide over there that slid, and it slid the day before, and it was of significant size. Um, and we rode over there and looked at it, and we're like, "Huh, look at this! This is a bunch of debris." And then Andy had mentioned that, yeah, that uh, one of his other friends had said something about they dug somebody out there the day before,
Wow.
and so that was one of those, like, wow, this is hazardous, but it was a giant red flag that we kind of didn't look at real well.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, from what we've been on was super stable, and yeah, but so we stopped there for a second, took a quick little break there, and then drop over the next up over into the next. There's a couple more bowls. You drop over a ridge into a meadow or another bowl, and then kind of played a little bit in this area, just a little bit, and this so the area where the accent was is kind of it was like a favorite of Andy's, and I like, it's a neat zone.
Yeah.
It's it is a very neat zone, and there's some, it's steep, getting in there is technical. There's some trees and stuff, so it's challenging to get to. Um, and there's just like, even just below where the accident was, there's some tree riding down below that is
Okay.
just with some creek bottoms and things that are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Some super cool tree riding down below that, and I was really, that's where I was like, yeah, we're gonna drop down these trees.
So,
Um,
William, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm just sharing
yep,
a
I
picture
see
that
it.
you had shared with me and
Yep,
ahead of time. And so this was the zone you guys were like coming up on. Is this what you're describing now as kind of the area you guys were in?
yeah. So this is the first pocket you drop down into is the bottom of the screen there. Uh, the hill, like just off to the right of the top of that picture, is the hill that slid.
Okay.
Just kind of where that V is there, kind of an angle from
The
the
shadow
right to
over
left
the upper
side there.
right hand side.
That's, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, kind of the shadow line. Yep, correct. Yeah,
Okay.
but there's some neat riding down there, and
So
um,
the picture there, was that picture that was taken the day like before the avalanche, or was this after the avalanche, or was this a different day that you guys had gone after the fact?
that picture was the day we went to recover my sled.
Gotcha. So later on. So describe to me then the
Yeah,
day of the avalanche. Like, what was the weather? Was it like blue skies like that? What was
it
the
looked
snow
like,
like? Describe the snow and stuff too, right? So,
so, so the snow was a little heavy, um, but it had snowed just a couple days before, and so it was deep. Um, and the weather was it was beautiful blue skies as well.
yeah.
Super gorgeous
Would you
day.
describe it as the perfect backcountry riding day? As almost the idea that like, man, this is the days we live for, like the sunny day, the deep powder,
Yeah,
like epic weather.
yeah,
So
yeah,
would
yeah.
you
It's starting to warm up. And we noticed that like it's relatively warm. It's not. I think I don't remember what we're in at that point, whether we're in the 40s or something,
Gotcha. So even that early in the day,
but it
because this
wasn't.
was still in the morning hours, and you're saying that it was already getting that warm too.
The accident happened at accident happened about noon.
About noon, okay. Yeah, just as the day
Yeah, it
was
was
warming
right
up.
about.
So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I think an
yeah.
important detail of this story that, in hindsight will become more and more clear, but I'll just call it out now is that, one of the primary things that happens in accidents like this across the country and you'll talk to people who are survivors of these avalanches, and people, and I talked to William about this in advance, and so I can kind of call this out, is that the stoke, right? The STOKE, right? The stoke was high. People were stoked to be out there. The energy level was high. The mindset was like, let's go shred some pow. It's a group of buddies together, probably, mentally high-fiving each other, whether it was physical or not, right? This idea that, like, man, this is the stuff we
Yeah.
live for. And a lot of times you get into these environments, and in spite of avalanche training that, you've had, in spite of, signs of a previous avalanche from the day before that you had seen
Right.
and heard about, in spite of all of that, like, sometimes our brains just shut off and we just go out there and we shred, and we find ourselves sometimes in situations we shouldn't be in, which is the next phase of this story, right? Of where we're about to go with the rest of the story,
Right.
right? Yep.
Yep. Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
think, it's easy to look at all of these situations in hindsight, and some people may be judgmental of, like, what were you guys thinking, right? And all those kind of things. And I would just tell you that, as somebody who's even very safety focused myself, right? I've been through a tremendous amount of training. I talk about
Right.
this stuff nonstop.
Yep.
William, you're somebody who watches my show, and we talk about this stuff nonstop. So it's not like you're
Right.
not aware of
Exactly.
it, but we get into these moments and these environments, and I've even found it myself, where, like, all of a sudden you look around and you realize, like, oh man, I shouldn't be here. Like, and most of the time we get
Right.
lucky. Most of the time we get lucky,
Right.
and sometimes we didn't. And unfortunately, the rest of the story is about the moment where you guys didn't get lucky that day, unfortunately, right? And I think we'll get into that here in just a
Right.
second. So,
Yeah. Yep.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So as you're
It was definitely that.
Yeah, so as you're riding up to this zone and where you're getting ready to ride, there's three riders, right? And so describe to
Right.
me, as you're riding up into the zone, what's going on with all three riders and what's happening. So,
So we ride before we before Andy and I cut back and ride through the trees to get into the actual zone where the accident was. We ride a little bit. The first zone when you drop down in, and we played just a little bit in there, and then there's a spot uh, where we kind of have a trail that takes off that we're gonna have to go up through, and at that spot, Randy decides he's gonna stop right there. He's gonna have a little snack, grab his lunch, and we're like, okay, we'll just pop back here for just a little bit, and we'll cut through here. And it is technical to get back in there, so it is what it is. We rode across and through the trees to get in that pocket. Um, we get back in there, and the snow is like it's deep. It's a beautiful day, and and we ride for a little bit. There's actually another shelf above the area where we were at,
okay,
and Andy had climbed up out of that on up to that upper shelf and been up there, and we both made a couple little pulls in different areas, and then I think he was only up there once, and I climbed part way up to that next shelf, and then cut across and dropped back out of there, and I remember at that moment thinking, we this snow feels questionable. We should really think about what we're doing, and
so it's just an internal thought in your head at
so
that moment, is what you're saying, right?
yeah, it was like this something feels off. This isn't like we shouldn't be right here.
Yeah,
Um, like something's wonky, and this is like just off to one side of where it was actually uh, where the avalanche actually came down. I was just off to the edge of that, a little bit out of it, that area before that happened, and so I ride back down off that, and I'm like, oh, this is I'm feeling funny about the situation. So I go down to a spot which is not the island of safety I should have been on, and I stop thinking, okay, he's coming down. He'll be down in just a second. He comes down. I'm like, hey, you know, he's like, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna grab something out of my bag. He's like, okay, I'm gonna make one pull, and then I'm thinking we're gonna drop down into the trees and go out the bottom and play down there because there's some creek crossings and some just tree stuff that's just a hoot
Yeah.
in the bottom. You know, real technical and just fun. And he says he's gonna make one more pull. Well, I've got my helmet off. I've got my gloves off. I'm grabbing something. He drops down this other side and goes to make a pull and comes up partway, climbs halfway up the hill, and then cuts over and starts side hilling, kind of away from me. And I wasn't paying. I wasn't really watching him when he did that. I seen him like kind of come by and in front of me a little ways out, and then so he was like halfway up this hill when it triggered. Uh, and the scary,
This is a hard moment, man. I
so
know
he,
this is the moment that it all came together and all happened, and I just want to let those who are watching know that, like, William here is like literally reliving the moment that changed his life forever, and it's hard for him to share this story, and so I just want to give him a moment to think through his thoughts and to pray for William and Andy who didn't survive the accident, and everybody just put your thoughts and prayers on William at the moment. When you're ready, William, like just take your time as much as you
yeah.
need, right? So
So he triggers it like midway up this hill, and it's a big hill and steep. He triggers it. It doesn't break uh, below him. It breaks at the very crest of the hill. Uh,
so that
and
picture
it's
that picture you shared, it broke near the top of the hill up there above where he was at.
yeah,
Okay.
yep, yeah, yeah. Um, so it broke super high and was just. I mean, it was like where it broke was 3-4 foot deep, easy. Um, just a mountain of snow coming down. Um, and I didn't see. I actually wasn't looking at him when he started side hilling. I didn't know where he was exactly um, until later. Uh, I basically I look over my shoulder and I'm like, oh my god, there's like this ocean wave of snow that's 3 or 4 foot rolling toward me. That was, I think when I seen it, it was probably 100 feet or so away from me, like moving stupid fast. And all I didn't have time to do anything except for, okay, I'm sitting on my sled, stab the key and hit the start, knowing that there's some trees there that are just going to pummel me if I don't get at least part way out of them, away from them. And so there was an opening of trees that was probably 15 feet, 20 feet in front of me, probably. And so all I could think was get between that to try and get down. Um, Before I could get by that tree, it it had caught me. It slammed my sled and me against the tree. Um, and I remember thinking at that time, like, "Oh my god!" And I was at that time I was thrown from my sled and pinballed off a bunch of trees. Um, and thinking, "Oh hell, my sled's probably still stuck up there on that tree." In my mind, I'm like, it's the way that snow grabbed it, and when it slammed me into my tree, it slammed me on my shoulder into the tree, and I'm like, yeah, in my head thinking as I'm, going through this, well, my sled's up there going to be stuck on that tree. That's weird. And I hit another tree. I hit several other trees actually, uh, which caused some other issues. Come to find out later, um, it carried me down the hill, probably 60 yards, 75 yards, something like that.
Wow.
After I got about the third or fourth tree that I'd hit, I was on my back and I could see the sky. So I'm like, okay, I'm moving. I'm not under. I'm moving, and I could see a tree coming at me, and it was fairly small. I mean, like arm size diameter. And I'm thinking, I can't. I got to. I don't know how to steer around that, but I can't hit that. I can't. Like I couldn't steer, and
No.
and I wound up straddling that tree.
Wow.
It caught me like that,
Yeah.
and uh, when it stopped me, the snow hadn't stopped yet. It buried me up to my armpits,
Wow.
and all the way behind my head. Um, and at that point, I'm just like, is the snow done? Because had the snow not stopped for another few seconds,
Yeah.
that'd been it. I'd been
Yeah.
under.
Yeah. You would have been underneath.
I'd been
Yep.
totally. I'd been buried. Yeah, I'd been totally buried and been totally like not able to do anything. Um, and so, at that point, the snow stopped, at least around me, and I'm like, okay. And out of the corner of my eye, there was still another area off to the left of me that I seen release that still came down. And once that settled, I'm like, okay, I think it stopped. And I at that point I was yelling for Andy and on the radio, and I got a hold of Randy and who was still outside and let him know that hey, we just got caught in an avalanche. Uh, and It took him I would guess 10 to 15 minutes to get in there to us.
Well, because you had
Um,
said early in the story that the area you guys had gone up into was a fairly technical area to get into, and
yes.
Randy was intentionally kind of holding back because it was an area that initially he was not
Yeah.
comfortable going into, right? And so for
Right.
Rand,
Earlier in the season, Randy and I had been through that earlier in the season,
yeah,
and he's fought with that technical section a few times.
yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
so for him to get to you in that amount of time, like just for him even to get to you was a miracle by itself, right? And
right.
so, but the
Right.
fact that it
Right.
took that long, I just want people to understand that that's why it took so long. Is like it was an area that
Right.
there's no way he could have
Right.
walked or hiked there. The snow sounds like it was waist deep snow that you guys were dealing with there,
Oh,
right?
it was at least
And so
yeah.
he had to be
And
able to
then
get in.
when he came in the zone, he about got hung up in a debris field also that was
Yeah,
soft and just not stable.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it was all stopped, but it was some hard spots, some soft spots, just a debris field. Um, by the time I seen him come in to the zone, uh, and by the time he got over to me, I had enough time to kind of try to pull my bearings together and like, okay, I got to figure out how to dig myself out like this, like this. Okay,
yeah.
you
And at
know,
this and at that point, it sounds like your legs were buried, half of your body or more was buried. You were,
right,
like I said, almost up to your neck
right,
there, and
right.
so you
It
had some
was yeah,
movement
it was
with
up,
your
up,
arms, so you could call the radio. It sounds like, but your movement, but yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
because I had my radio right here, and I my arms were
just high
free
enough.
from yeah.
So I'll pause
So
for
I could
a
I
second, just because I
I was
want
able
people to be
yeah
aware too that like if you've never experienced avalanche debris, this what we're riding around in is this soft, fluffy snow, and this sounds like a little bit of a heavier, wet snow already. So it was already a little bit more heavy
Yep.
than normal. But like when that snow is moving down the mountain at the speed it is, like it goes from light, fluffy powder to almost like liquid concrete, right? It turns into, and when it
Pretty close.
stops, yeah, and when it stops, there's all kinds of like heat and friction happening in the snow. And then as soon as it stops, it almost instantly starts turning into what a lot of people would describe as like a concrete type material, right? Where it can literally like just, it's almost impossible to move. And so the fact that you had the ability to
Right.
even move your arms, that alone was a blessing, because it's like if your arms were even under the snow a
Right.
little bit, there's
Oh,
a chance you would have just had to sit there and
yeah.
wait for Randy completely to come dig you out, right? At that point.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Or not even been
Yeah.
able to reach him, even though,
Yeah.
where my radio was
The other thing,
and whatnot. But
yeah. The
so I was able to dig myself out. I
Yeah.
mean,
But the other thing I'll call out again and remind everybody is like in the story is that like, William literally at this point had just banged himself off of 3, 4 trees or more and is now pinned up against a tree. And so he's working off adrenaline. Like, I mean, when you're in that environment, you're in that situation, like you probably didn't even realize at the time like how badly injured you were. You were more thinking about like, oh my
oh
gosh,
no,
where's my friend? And then dig myself out.
yes,
And we found out later after the accident, like a few weeks later, that you had
right,
very, very serious injuries involved in that. And we'll talk about more about that later.
right,
But, just want to paint the picture for everybody that like you were in no condition to just get up quickly and immediately and start searching for Andy. Like you had to initially get yourself out of that situation. And that's the moment we're at in the story here. So continue on.
right, right. So I as I'm stuck just before I start digging, I'm looking. I'm like, what the, like 30 feet below me is my sled, and I'm like, well, that's weird. I really figured it was behind me, but so I dug myself out, crawled down there to my sled. Um, I mean, it probably took me 5, 10 minutes at least to dig myself out, I would guess. I mean, I just kept digging. Okay, I can't quite move my legs. Dig a little more, you know. Um, but anyhow, I crawl down there. I get down by my sled. Some of my stuff scattered a little bit and stuff, and so I've still got my bag on and whatnot. I grab my beacon. I'm like, I gotta find, and so I get signal. I It still bugs me.
It's hard, man. So hard. Take as much time as you need, man.
I pick up Andy's beacon. I've got a signal, and I'm like, okay, and I start trying to trudge through, and he's probably 40 yards from me through some trees, but a little ways from me. Um, and about that same time, Randy makes it over to me, and he's like, "Man, it's been too long." And I'm like, "I know, but," and I try to get through, and I'm like, my knees are beat to hell too. Uh,
Yeah.
they have their good days and bad days, you know. Uh, we're not getting any younger, and so they were pretty good before the trees, I think. But uh, so I can't get through this debris and stuff, and at any rate, Randy's able to get out satellite text with search and rescue pretty quickly. Um, and I would, the time is really weird in that moment. Like perception of time, just it's
Yeah.
really hard for me to like gauge, and I'm pretty good with time.
Yeah. No, I hear you,
Normally,
man.
I'm like, I know that was 5 minutes, or
Yeah.
or it was 30 minutes. uh, that perception of that period of time was very weird. And he starts texting with them, and that was probably 25 to 30 minutes after the accident, after the avalanche. Uh, and so, uh, fortunately, they've got up there out of Mazama, they've got a phenomenal heliski place that they had two helicopters in there within like 20 minutes,
Wow.
and with a paramedic, and several of them are paramedics, but just an amazing crew. So there were like, I think there were 8 of them. I think there were 4 on each helicopter besides the pilot. Uh, and so the first, they dropped some guys off. The first helicopter drops off the couple people, or all 4, however many were there. I think there were 4 on each. And I got one of the guys comes scooting down to me pretty dang quick downhill to me, because they had to land up above us a little bit. And then the paramedic comes down also, and they're kind of checking me out. Well, at the same time, here comes this other group. They drop off and they started searching for Andy at that moment. And I was like, standing there, I was like, hey, you need to let him know. Like, I know where he's at. He's over here. And sure enough, that's where they found him. But they found him pretty quick, recovered him quickly. Pretty incredible. And then the paramedic like looks at me and is like, okay, and I'm kind of limping. My knees are acting weird, and I've been through a blunder of trees, so I'm I'm hurting, but I am still on adrenaline and still like I don't know how to describe it really.
Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, to give you a
you know,
moment to pause in your story, I'll share a personal story that happened to me one time in an emergency, and just give people perspective on how we as humans react and interact in these kind of emergencies. Is that I was actually driving to work one time. I don't remember what year it was, but it was maybe 10 years ago or so. And I came upon an accident where there was unfortunately a little lady crossing the side, the street before daylight, right? It was 6:30 in the morning or something like that, and somebody came around a corner with a steamed up windshield that they hadn't let defrost yet in the middle of December, and unfortunately this little old lady was run over by a vehicle, and I came up on the scene of the accident just as the driver, had like seen what had happened, was just literally backing off of this unfortunate lady that was there. And when I walked up, there was, thank God, somebody else there that had medical training, and my job was to dial 911. And I remember in that moment, like, seeing this situation and stuff as simple as literally taking a cell phone and dialing 911 that any of us could do when we're, in our normal wits about us, you could do in like 10 seconds, right? And be done, and you're on the phone to
right,
somebody, whatnot, right? But I remember it taking me like a minute or more just to figure out how to like use my phone that I use every single day. It's like your brain just shuts down. You can't function normally. Your body freezes up. And like this whole situation, the trauma that you personally went through, plus the trauma of knowing that your best friend, was, or one of your great friends here was just like under the snow over
right,
here, and he's likely at that point not survived. Like, there's so many things that all of us humans, we don't have any control over. Like, we have these moments of what we call like fight, flight, or freeze, right? And
right,
in many cases we go through this like freeze scenario too, and unless somebody has personally experienced something like that, they will never understand. They just don't have any concept of like what we are going through when we go through those kind of traumatic moments. And so, I call that out just from my own experience of something that I wasn't even directly involved in with somebody I didn't even know. And I know how it impacted me and literally paralyzed me in that moment. And I can't only imagine the grief, the fear, the physical pain you were in that you didn't even realize yet because of the trauma that you had experienced. And like,
right.
giving you some additional credibility to like, man, why couldn't William get over and save Andy? I think is a question that many people would ask, right? And I think even Randy coming in, by the time Randy got there, by the time you were even close to be able to do it, you couldn't get there anyway because of your legs and everything were so banged up. But even if you could have at that point,
Right.
frankly, it would have been too late. Just the fact that you had to get yourself
Right.
out of the
Oh,
snow.
I'm aware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I'm calling this out for the audience, right? That's listening that may not understand
Gotcha.
the timing and the scenarios of what goes on in these kind of situations. Like, unless somebody is extracted in under 5 minutes, the likelihood of them surviving is almost none, right? And so,
Right. And that's assuming it's just a suffocation. I
exactly,
mean,
and not trauma in trees or rocks or anything else, right? So,
right. Right.
anyway, I wanted to give you that
Yeah.
space so that you could, gather yourself in your story and pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
So,
So after paramedics checked me out, they helped me hike up the hill, tromp through the snow back up to, we're talking with the paramedics with Randy and Randy, we decided that basically that Randy was going to ride his sled back out, because he could have gotten the helicopter as well. But then we got multiple sleds up there, and he's like, anyhow, and his rig was at the snow park, not where the helicopter's going. And so he heads out to try and voyage down, which sound like a whole another experience in itself, for him, um, as well. Uh, losing our buddy, and then me being beat to shit, and him he anyhow, he made it down. They got me up to the helicopter. I got in the first helicopter with a group of them, and we went back down to the Heliski lodge, and then they got Andy on the next helicopter, and brought him down as well. Um, they had another paramedic also look at me once we got back down to the lodge. It took it was over an hour before Randy got off the hill. I mean, like I said, it's a good 10 miles. Actually, it's from where the accident was. It's more than that. It's at least 15
yeah.
at minimum, back to the snow park. And so we had some time. I sat in the lodge. They looked at me. They looked me over. Said I should go to the hospital, and I'm like, I'm not going to the one that's closest to here. So Randy was on his way. I'm like, we'll wait till Randy gets here, and we'll see what's going on. And at any rate, left there, had Randy drive me home. It was an interesting ride home. I called my wife when I was at the lodge up there, uh, and talked to her. And she's like, "Do I need to come get you or what?" I'm like, "No, don't." I mean, it's 2 hours. Just Randy will be here shortly. At that point, he'd been there. He'll drive me down. I'm not. You don't need to drive up here. You, you know, you don't need to come up here. It's gonna be fine. And so Randy brought me home. It was an interesting ride home. Uh, Called some friends and stuff on the way. Randy did. I had lost my phone, all my pretty much everything in the snow up there on the mountain. So uh, didn't have a phone or anything. It felt almost naked.
Yeah.
I can't call my wife, tell her I'm okay. I mean, we call her on Randy's phone, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, uh, it's just that it's one of those things that are kind of attached to you almost anymore.
Yep.
But I came home. My wife's like, do we need to go to the hospital right now? I'm like, no, I just need to rest. We'll go in the morning. And I went that's what I did. I rested that night, got up next morning, made an appointment down at the clinic. I go and see a doctor down there, and she's like, what happened to you?
Wow.
And she's like, "Oh, you're going over to the emergency room over here."
Yeah.
I'm like, well. So I spent the day, half the day in the emergency room until they could get me up to the hospital in a room at the hospital to stay the night to be observed. And so I only stayed one night at that point. And they're like, well, you just need to be, take it easy and be careful. And so that was it for about 2 weeks. Just kind of not doing, just, after I got out of the hospital the next day and came home, and, they told me to take it easy, and I'm sure there was some medicine or something, I'm sure, probably some prescription, some pain pills or something, but I don't remember because I didn't take much of that. I don't remember
Yeah.
real well.
Yeah.
But about 2 weeks later, which was actually the day before Andy's memorial, I started seeing some blood and started like thinking, something may not be right. I felt like I was healing, like I was able to get up and move a little more now
Yeah.
after 2 weeks. And I was actually feeling pretty good. Uh, but I'm and I'm like, hey, I told my wife, I'm like, hey, honey, you know, I there's this blood, and uh, she's like, well, you should go. We need to take you to the emergency room. I'm like, not tonight. We're not going tonight. We'll go after the service tomorrow. Because if I go in, they won't. They're not gonna let me leave.
Yeah.
Go to a service. We're gonna go after a service. It'll be fine. So attend any service. I go straight from there to the emergency room.
Wow.
Sat in the this is a whole nother funny story. I'm not overly impressed with the emergency room at that hospital. So I sat in there for a couple hours, and in that time, I'm like, I get on my phone, and I'm like, oh no, how did I do that? Because that's right, it only took me a week or so to get my phone. So I did have a new phone by then. Uh, I get on my phone, make an appointment down at the clinic where I went to start with, and I'm like, honey, we're leaving this emergency room. I go up and tell them, hey, we're leaving. Uh, we're not waiting anymore. And and I got an appointment for like half hour, 45 minutes from that point down at the clinic. So I'm like, we'll go see this doctor down here. And I go in, and it happens to be the same lady I seen 2 weeks before.
Okay.
Same doctor, super nice gal. And she's like, now tell me what's going on. And I tell her, and she's like, oh, you're going back to that emergency
Oh
room.
no. Oh no. Okay.
You're going back to that emergency room. I will make some phone calls. You're going up. You're going right back up there right now. And or I can call you an ambulance. Oh, I can drive myself. Or my wife will drive me up there. Okay, we'll go back. And so we did. We went back up there. I checked back in, and at this point, I only had to wait for like 15 minutes because of the phone call. Apparently,
Priority, right? Became a priority.
priority. Because now all of a sudden it's priority, and so they put me in a room, and it wasn't. It was a shift change, but for the doctors as well. So the gentleman that was my doctor, that was a doctor that was seeing me at that point, it's like, we're gonna have to do surgery. I'm like, they sent me back and they did some scans or whatever. He says, we're gonna have to do some surgery. I'm like, oh. He's like, but we're right in the middle of shift change. I've got this other doctor coming in, and I briefed her on it basically, and so she comes in and she looks at me and says, oh, well, you look really good. And I'm like, I feel pretty good. I feel better than I did, 2 weeks ago. I think I'm feeling pretty good. And she's like, well, let me go check let me go recheck this because I don't know that we have to, like, or not. And before she got back, the nurse come in and is like, okay, I'm ready to take you to surgery. And I'm like, did you
Oh,
talk to that doctor? Did you talk to that doctor? And like about the same time I'm asking her that, the doctor walks in and says, yes, you are going now.
wow.
And
What did they identify? You haven't really said it yet. What did they identify as the core issue that you were dealing with?
so during the accident, it had ripped my appendix off
Oh, wow.
and it had been floating around inside there for like 2 weeks
Wow.
with just,
Well, we all
yeah,
know that if you have
with the appendix.
a ruptured appendix is like could be fatal by itself, right? And so the fact that it was ripped off and
Yeah,
that can be
this
extremely
was
dangerous.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. And so they rushed me over to surgery, and that was all I remember for
Oh, well.
quite a few hours. Uh,
Wow.
and then I spent a week and a half or so, between a week and a half, 2 weeks in the hospital
Yeah.
after that surgery,
Yep.
which was hard in itself because we'll see how it's looking tomorrow. We'll probably send you home,
Yeah.
and then you're like, get your hopes up, and the next day,
Nope.
yeah, we're not sending you home. No, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, and then yeah, it was. It seemed like forever.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's
uh,
the story of your injuries too also helps validate like how severely you were brutalized through those trees and the injuries that you had and the fact that you were just
right.
working off adrenaline, in those minutes and hours after the accident. So it's just it's
Yeah.
crazy to think in hindsight that you were even able to walk away. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because initially I was slammed into my shoulder in the first tree, and then the next tree, uh, I remember hitting across, uh,
your abdomen or chest.
like my abdomen, pretty much on the right side,
Yeah.
and it's weird because I can remember like hitting that tree and thinking, oh my god, I don't know how much of this I can survive.
Yeah.
Like I like this is gonna be bad.
Well, and just to call it out too, like, most people who are caught in avalanches, what they ultimately or, what they pass away from is the getting beat against trees and rocks and like,
Trauma.
the blunt force trauma that they experience being banged through this kind of stuff. And so, you know,
Right.
that's the number one killer in an avalanche, right? Is like,
Yeah.
banging into trees like
Right.
that. And so the fact that you did survive it is a blessing by itself. And I think, we were, it's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing that we lost Andy, when he went up and he triggered that avalanche and the fact that he got, pulled down in that avalanche and passed away. We almost lost you too, William, right? And I think, both of you guys being friends of mine, um, it's a horrible tragedy that we lost Andy, but it would have been an additional tragedy had we lost you, right? And I think, the details of the story, I think we've told for the most part enough of those, unless there's something you really want to cover right now.
Yeah.
But
No.
I think right now I'd love to shift gears a little bit and move over to this idea of like hindsight being 2020. Like when you look back at that day
Right.
today, what are the top two or three things with hindsight being crystal clear 2020? Like what are the things that you wish you had done differently or signs that you saw or read differently that would have changed in hindsight now going forward? Like what would you do differently in the future if you were ever to come across those things that you now can look back in hindsight on? Like what are those top maybe two or three things that you want everybody to take away from your experience and the reflection back and like what maybe you would do differently now?
Right. So I think, like I kind of mentioned before, was the avalanche we seen prior to that was should have been a giant red flag that we didn't pay enough attention to. Um, that should have been that was a huge, huge uh, mistake right there. Um, the next thing that really sticks out in my mind is like in all the training and everything, it's stopping in an island of safety. the spot where I stopped, almost every time we were in there, that's where we stopped. And I knew it wasn't a safe spot. Like, even though we've stopped there 100 times, like that's kind of like if there were more than, two of us, we'd kind of stop there for a minute or a little bit, and people would, ride from there a little bit. And just knowing, like, I looked at it, I remember thinking that, I looked at the spot before thinking, this isn't the greatest spot to be sitting, like, but not like acting on it right away.
Yeah.
And, like making the conscious decision that yeah, this is not the spot to be. Um, just not not putting yourself in that hazard.
Yeah.
Right there. Um, those are probably the two biggest things. I mean,
Yeah. Nope, absolutely. No,
there
and
were
those are
definitely,
those are absolutely like, and when I've heard your story in detail in advance as well as like during tonight too, and I would tell you that those are the two things that stick out to me as well. The only additional third thing that I'll highlight that you and I talked about is the avalanche forecast. You didn't really cover this in detail,
yes,
but the fact that the avalanche
yeah,
forecast that day was considerable, or it was moderate, right?
it's
Like it was,
moderate.
yeah, it was yellow or
Yeah,
moderate, right? But then in
yeah,
that forecast, in hindsight, it potentially did call out, if I recall from what you shared with me, that a persistent weak layer was present in that area, in that zone. That information, along with the fact that there was an avalanche that you had seen from the day before, should have,
right,
in hindsight, been enough now to prevent you from going into that zone completely, right? I think as a group, if everybody was aware and trained and had saw those
right,
details.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like
yeah,
everything in
yeah. We've been
life, hindsight's 2020. We can't change what happened in the past. All we can do is think about what
right.
are we going to do different in the future, right? So
Yeah, yep, definitely. Yeah, those are, and that's just,
yeah.
it's easy to look back on.
Oh, exactly. Like it's easy to be on the outside looking into this story or this situation, and to think like, man, why didn't they do this or why didn't they? Like the reality is, what happened, right? We can't change what happened, but
Right,
we share these stories to highlight those moments of like, man, if you see an existing avalanche, that should be a giant red flag, especially if it's in the last 24 hours or so, right? That you currently knew about.
yeah,
And again, this is
yep,
for anybody going forward. Let's talk a little bit about William
right,
now. This has been roughly 8 months now since the accident, give or take.
right.
Um, Tell me a little bit about like how this accident has changed your life personally since then. Things like your physical condition, your relationships, personal, friendships, your job. Like what in your life has been impacted and changed since the accident, and what do you want people to know about an accident like this, and how that may impact them going forward and those around them, right? Like not only just how did it impact you, but all of the people around you, all the people that knew Andy and all the people that you knew together. So
Right, right. Yeah, there's been a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought about come from this. It was hard not realizing uh, the struggle this was like for my wife also, uh, who was pretty upset for quite a while afterwards. I mean, the fact that I almost didn't make it back from this, and she struggled with that. Uh, it's just hard. Um, so not just that I missed uh, 2 months of work. Also,
yeah,
um, that that had a factor in it too, and um, as far as like for me, my health and stuff, I feel like I'm almost 100% back. Uh, I couldn't. I pretty much was basically after I got out of the hospital was pretty much like a bed rest kind of situation for a month.
Yeah.
So I had a follow up appointment about a month out, and the doctor was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
you haven't been able to walk, haven't been hardly moving for a month.
Physical
You gotta
therapy,
get
right?
moving again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta move your body." And at that point, I started walking a lot,
Yeah.
uh, and doing things to try and get back in. But I remember like that first week when the doctor says, "Okay, you need to start moving again," and I'm like, "Oh, good, I can do stuff. This is kind of a green light." And like the first 2 days, okay, I'm moving well. And about the third day after that, I'm like, "Oh my
Take a break.
god, I feel like somebody just
Yeah.
beat me up again,"
Yeah.
Um,
So
but it
just
just took some time,
yeah. I mean, so just high level.
you
Again,
know.
we don't need to go too deep into most of this, but it's like the
Yeah,
accident was the accident, right? 2 weeks
yes,
later,
it
you
was.
had this emergency surgery. Month like 2 months out of work. Incredible stress on your
Yeah,
personal, relationship with your wife. Your wife was really stressed out about this whole thing. Um, the impact of Andy passing on folks like his mother, who's here watching tonight. Andy's wife, who's here watching tonight too. She's been in the comments as well. I think she told you in advance that she'd be watching tonight. And
yes,
so,
we did.
Natalie, specifically, a comment for you, if you're still watching, is that, you know, I still to this day follow Andy's Facebook page, right? He was a friend of mine, and we don't unfriend each other because somebody passed away. Like that's something you want to keep that memory cherished. And so every time Natalie shares a post or a comment and tags Andy in it, I'm still seeing it, right? And
Right,
the amount of pain and hurt and suffering that Natalie and the entire family has gone through over an accident like
right,
this. We're literally out there just to have fun, right? Like this is the most fun anybody can have in the world, literally. Like, and it's something we're passionate about. We
right,
do. We know there's a level of risk there that's part of this, and it's unfortunate when things like this happen. But at the end of the day, it's an accident. Like nobody goes out there intentionally trying to create this situation or this issue. Um,
right,
the education helps, the equipment helps, all of those things help. But at the end of the day, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You can't always have any control over that. But what I would tell you, Natalie, is that Andy passing away was not for nothing, right? At this point, the passing of Andy and William's ability to come on and share this story, I can give you 100% guarantee that this story and the experience that William and Andy and everybody has gone through will impact hundreds, if not thousands, of other people across the country in their decisions to reconsider when the avalanche danger may be not completely safe or the terrain that they're in may not be safe. The island of safety that William talked about, may be reconsidered in the next scenario. The time they see an avalanche will cause them to think twice and to look back. They may go get more avalanche training and education and better equipment, but lives will be saved because this story was shared tonight. And for that, William, myself, and everybody who's watching tonight in the comments, we're all extremely grateful for the courage that you've shown to be able to share your story here with everybody else in an effort to make sure that other people don't have to experience what you've gone through, right? It's the tragedy that you've gone
right.
through personally and what Andy went through and the families on both sides. Um,
Yeah,
there's just no words for it. There just isn't. And for you to be able to be here and to have that courage to share that story, I mean, I can say this very boldly. It's like, I'm sure for you to some degree, this is an embarrassing situation, right? Like it absolutely has to be, right? Like you're in this situation and
oh
like,
yeah,
oh my God, we made this mistake and look what
Mm.
happened. Like that alone
right,
is enough for many people to never want to tell their story. But you have the foresight to know that by sharing this story in spite of your personal experience and your emotions, that you're going to be able to change lives for the better by sharing your story. And I think that's the most courageous thing that I've ever seen anybody do. It's super amazing. So I'm really proud of you, William, for sharing your story.
thanks.
No, it's amazing. Um, with that, is there anybody that you want to just say, thank you to, acknowledgments, anybody, anything you want to say to kind of wrap this up, or if there's any final thoughts you have before we close it out, feel free to do so.
I Final thoughts, I think, are just slow down and think more. Uh, the excitement is what it is, and if you don't think a little bit ahead, you may not get a ride tomorrow, and that's a hard one. You know, hard one to totally wrap your head around sometimes especially in the moment where the stoke is like you said, it's just that level of excitement and like this unbelievable great day, and
I mean,
you just don't know how it's
it
going to
went
turn
from
out.
the best day of your life to the worst day of your life in a matter of seconds, right? So
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
very
So
good. Okay.
yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and hope they take something away that maybe just one extra thought that
Yeah.
maybe we should not ride this area right now.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And if anybody who's watching this either now or over the next days and weeks to come, as this video makes its rounds, don't hesitate to reach out to me personally, John Farian. I'm directly involved with organizations like ARI, which is American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education. I'm on their motorized advisory board. There's things you can do to reach out. We can get you in touch with folks with training. There's Avalanche education scholarships that are available every year. Unfortunately, the ones for this season just closed out for the recreational and professional scholarships, but going into next season, those are available as well. The locally here in the Washington State, the Northwest Avalanche Center. So www.nwac.o I think it's .us. So nwac.us is the website. There's also an app out there called Avi app. Avalanche forecast is out there. There's opportunities for avalanche education. If anybody has questions about the equipment they want to buy or anything they need, whether it be airbag packs or beacons, shovel, probe, best practices, joining a club, which is when you're involved in a club, you're going to be involved with people who are generally more safety minded than those who maybe aren't. That's not a standalone comment. I think that's situational, but I think that's a good idea too, is to just make sure you're surrounding yourself like Andy and William here did, with people who were thoughtful about the situation they're in, and that if there was an ability to rescue, that they could have. All of those things are important details here, and so please continue to share this show out. Get the word out about this situation, and it'll absolutely help other people. So, final words,
Yep.
William. Any goodbyes? You want to say thank you to everybody?
Nope. Nope. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
All right, thank you guys so much. William, you can hang on here for a second. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. So,
Yep.
all right, everybody. God bless you all, and have a good night.